Hello, 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 my beautiful, everyday, powerful women of the world. Welcome to the Startup Stories podcast, where women who are seeking more of themselves through purpose and business are heard, held, and served. Powerful Inc. Startup Stories brings you relatable stories to keep you sane, grounded, and growing as you deliver your purpose and grow your business. And you guys, if I were fancier, I would have been playing Dancing Queen by ABBA for you to welcome the one and the only disco queen, Miss Karen Cooper,
Hysterical, you're hysterical, thank you. By the way, that was the most soothing
to
voice
the
ever.
literally to welcome her to the stage. Karen and I met through, a group coaching program a couple of years ago. I think we were in the same cohort, and, she's just such a little fireball, and so over the last few years, we've seen each other grow and expand and serve and explore the world, through our new identity, and I couldn't stand it anymore. I finally said, "Karen, you gotta come on the show. I love what's happening, and let's talk about what your journey's been and, who you are from who you've been to who you're becoming, and take us through some of your history because, like, you've really, you know, you just had a birthday, so happy belated official and happy birthday lifetime. But you had this gorgeous post around looking back to your 16-year-old self. So
Mm.
let's dive into some of that today. And let's just share too that Karen invested in herself and in her evolution, and then invested further in becoming a trauma informed mindset coach to allow for other women to go through that journey too with somebody who really knows. Like Karen's really gone through the meat of life to get to this point, right? So welcome, 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 sweetheart. I'm so thrilled.
Thank you. Wow, that was a fabulous introduction. Thank you.
You're so on any nuances. We're not hiding anything here, right? So
No.
what was it that first drew you to invest in mind magic? Like how did you find that and what were you going through at that time that was pulling you ahead?
I was a year and a half out of corporate. So my short version of the story is I used to work in corporate and I was freelancing at NBC, and my contract ended 2 weeks after COVID hit. And I was in my early 50s and not interested in finding another job. So the network marketing business that I was doing on the side, I decided to do that full time. So I became an
Okay.
accidental entrepreneur. In doing so, about a year into it, I'm like, I have no idea what I'm doing. I have no idea who I am. And I know, hi, I'm the problem. It's me. Like I knew that intuitively. And I knew I needed a deeper dive. And I was doing personal development, but I knew I needed a deeper dive.
Mhm.
Serendipitously, our mentor, Tracy Litt, showed up on a training call through my network marketing
Oh, no
business.
way.
So that is how I was introduced to her.
No way.
And she started cursing, and she was from New Jersey, and I live in New York, and I'm from Brooklyn. I live in Staten Island, and I was like sold. Like whatever she was doing, I was sold. And so that began. That's how the journey began.
That's awesome. Like a divine opportunity, right? Where you guys, this gets me every time. But if you don't show up, then the person who needs you has to continue waiting. And like, Karen, how much pain were you in? How much constriction were you in? Like praying for a miracle, praying for somebody like Tracy.
It was okay, I'll put it to you this way. I'm someone who had a really bad money story, and I was scared. Are we allowed to curse on this thing? I was scared shitless to spend any kind of money. Like when I first purchased my nutrition system, that was $300 plus. I was like, oh my God. That was like the most money I had ever really spent on myself for me, like to
Yeah,
invest in me.
yeah.
So I was at that point where I was like, I know I need to do something big. So I would say my pain was probably a 10 out of 10 at that point.
Yeah, yeah. And then here comes this woman who, and the reason this is so important, you guys, is because whatever you're feeling, you're making it about you. And instead, oh, shocking. Yes. Okay. We're not children anymore.
Yep, we are.
Yet we are crying kids who just want to nurse. But when we do that, we make it about ourselves instead of making about the woman or person that together we can grow. Because when a coach says yes to her gifts and her heart and shows up for others, the real impact is when the others come into that space, right? So here we are, we're always pushing out thinking it's about you. But what you're actually doing is smashing through another brick wall for everybody that's going to come with you. You have a huge following. You know, network marketing is, for me, it was really uncomfortable because I hate sales and I hate like pushy. Well, anyway, it's a whole piece of my puzzle to work through. But when you said yes to yourself, you started to unlock new opportunities and new frequencies, right? So then you say yes to that commitment, you start that journey, and your whole life starts to unravel. What's happening now?
Kicking and screaming
Yes.
a lot. No,
Resistance.
kicking because the inner work is
Right.
inner
Yeah.
work. Yes, we can make it fun, and yes, it's ridiculous, but it's also not sexy and it's not pretty some of the times of
Yeah.
the that you have to. And the fact is that you also that the facing the reality that some of it is you.
Yeah.
Taking
Yeah.
responsibility for your own actions when it's so much more fun to blame others. Um, so way more fun, but it doesn't serve anybody by doing that is what I've learned. So I was honestly, it was a shock. I'm not even gonna lie about that. It was a very big shock when I really started diving deeper into the inner work. But what I soon found out was how not even just powerful, but how necessary it was.
Mhm.
I said my pain was 10 out of a 10. I
Mhm.
knew I needed to make a change and a drastic one at that in order to evolve. And I didn't know
Mhm.
what it was at the time. Like I didn't understand like that was like what I was doing. I just knew I couldn't go on any longer with what I was doing. That's what I
Yeah.
knew. And so unlocking the power within me that I didn't
Mhm.
know I had because I didn't feel enough and I didn't feel worthy and I didn't feel deserving at all.
Yeah.
And to know that, wait a minute, I am whole and worthy because I exist,
Mhm.
not necessarily believing it at that time, but even having that like as a like a bubble, like a bubble
Yeah.
above me is like, oh, that's interesting to know. And
Yeah.
uncovering the layers of all the things that made me who I was then
Yeah.
was very interesting. And it made a lot of sense.
At a very young age, 5 to 7, we start making meaning out of how the world is behaving around us and putting protection around
Mhm.
like who we are, right? So instead of this ongoing expansion, it very early starts to constrict. I have a 6-year-old. I'm living through it right now, right? Like we had an incident, an event in her life where I forgot the dance shoes at dance class. And this was a big thing for her. Whatever it was meaning to her was affecting her enoughness because we didn't have the dance shoes, right? And I can, it's an incredible thing having done my own work, which you guys, it never ends, which is the awesome and obnoxious. It's like,
Hey, sucker.
right? Like, aren't I done? Aren't I done? Didn't I do this? There's more? What? This again? But, you know, my awareness to hold space now for my own child and to really it's like a scientific study to really see where these things start, and then to be able to share that with us grown-ups, who myself included, my enoughness story, like, it's it's crazy. So there's this huge desire to nurture oneself, and then because of the blessings that we receive as a result of doing that,
Mm,
we wanna gift it forward, right? And we've done it, so we're again, always doing it, but, um, it makes a very relatable and, safe space to then welcome others into it. So
mm.
you start going through this, you start chewing on the dry, dusty, leathery taste of personal responsibility in the desert and the sun with no water. And what what starts to crack, and how does that then start to, show up in your life?
Good question. Um, Side note, before I answer that question, it's interesting. That's a beautiful story that you just shared. And part of what I do also is inner child healing. And there's a reason why we do the inner child healing, because we have it because she's our inner child is still in in that environment. So going back to that inner child and telling her that it's safe and it's okay to walk with you is an important part of that journey. So I want to say that. And it's actually in the movie Wicked, actually, which I'm dying to see, but like apparently Alphaba, when she sings Divine Gravity, goes back. Like there's a moment apparently that I've read about this, that she goes back to her
Uh-huh,
inner
uh-huh.
child. So I find that very interesting. That being said, what was happening to me is partly that, is partly that, like understanding what, like what I said earlier about understanding what happened and I was like a mess, a people pleaser, control freak, and codependent.
Mhm,
I didn't
mhm,
know those were the words, but like, so I was uncovering all of that. I was uncovering, I always knew, like everybody thought I was fabulous, but I'm like, who
mm,
are you talking about? Like everybody's like, I love you, I love your energy, always complimenting me. And deep down inside, I was like, who are you talking about? Like I would say I
mm,
was the queen of I'm fine because I'm
mhm.
happy and go lucky and like I present, like that. But on the
Right,
inside, I was dying. Like on the ins,
right,
my outside never matched my insides ever,
right.
up until I started doing the work. And that's what really started happening for me, was like it started to match, and I started to understand deeper what I was doing and how to unravel all that, how to not be a people pleaser, and how to set boundaries and what to do and whatnot. And I also, one of the questions that was asked in one of our sessions was, what are you tolerating?
Mhm,
And that was a really big, deep question. And I was like, oh my God. And one of the things I was tolerating was a toxic marriage um, at that point in my life. And one of the biggest transformations
mhm.
for me was ending that marriage, but ending that marriage
Yeah,
like a human being and not like with a massive amount of hate and venom.
yeah. I think being able to navigate something like that from a grounded and peaceful place,
Yeah.
right? And his reaction to that then? Like, what was his response?
The interesting thing about it is that it was bad for a few years prior to that. So it
Yeah,
was, we both knew that it was over. We just didn't have the balls to end it, quite frankly.
right.
And so it was honestly a conversation. And I'm not even being exaggerating. We would just
Mhm,
like, it's over. But I was very adamant about it was a year before our daughter had I have our children now are 23 and 18.
mhm,
And my daughter's 23, my son is 18. And our daughter was graduating college a year after we decided. And I'm like, we have kids together. And I
yeah,
refuse to to and she lives in Delaware, our daughter. And I said, I refused for you to leave at 12:15 and I show up at 12:30. I'm like, I
right.
refuse to allow that to happen. I'm like, we have children together, and whether we like it or not,
Yeah,
we're gonna be in each other's lives. It just
yeah,
is. Like, it
yeah,
doesn't matter. So, like, can we just be human beings about this? I'm not saying we have to be best friends. I'm not
yeah,
saying, you know what I'm saying? It wasn't about like, showing face. It was more like we're not staying married, but we have children together. We can be friends. Like, we can be human beings to each other
mhm,
and go to these events together, not with venom and not with hate. And that's exactly
yeah,
what's going on. Also in graduating high school, that kind of a thing.
mhm, mhm. So what a beautiful way to embrace a transition and hold space for yourself
Yeah.
and hold space for him and kind of guide him into that same safety and peacefulness, right?
Mhm.
Like that. And what you have shared so far is that painting this real internal external misalignment, and how that slowly eats away at us over time, we can not be aware of. But, take this opportunity in listening to Karen's story to really think about what you would feel deep down, what's way in there, asking to be alive and not having an opportunity, because that's suffering where it's coming from, is you not being true to yourself. You're not being that pure, incredible soul being that came to life in your mother's womb in an agreement to the life that you received, right? And the more we suffocate that, the more constricted and we don't get to have a version of the life that we know we want and we're not sure we deserve. And that's where this type of inner work can help you move into that. And again, because like the everyday woman, I'm not talking about Oprah, I'm not talking about Princess Diana, I'm not talking about any, just the freedom of being yourself and of being soft. And really loving the word soft as 2024 ends, and living your life in this new energy. It's as simple as that. So now,
Mhm.
you're doing the work, you're applying it, you're changing your life, and you're seeing these incredible results. So what is changing? Like, are people you're hanging out with, friendships, everything, right?
Everything is different, and to your point, I love the word soft, and to your point, that's what literally why I'm so passionate about what I'm doing, is exactly what you're
Mhm.
talking about, is helping women stand in that power, helping women show up as their true authentic selves, showing up confidently, boldly, and not worrying about, because the beauty of doing the work also is not worrying about judgment from
Yeah,
yourself or others,
yeah,
right? And it's really about showing up and being like, that's why you said dancing queen. I mean, every Friday I show up on social media and dance and lip sync. It's like
yeah,
ridiculous.
yeah,
You know what I mean? But
yeah.
like that's the point. And what was going on for me was just that type of transformation, was that I can show up like that, that it's okay and safe to
Mhm,
show up like that, that letting go of all of those things and the people pleasing, letting go of all that, letting go of the marriage, letting go of people, allowed an openness in me,
mhm.
right? And and that's the hard truth about the evolution, the journey of evolution, is you're going to lose things, and it's okay to
Right.
mourn the
Yeah,
loss of said things. I don't think that gets enough credit, so to speak. So
yeah,
I mourn the loss of certain people, places, and things, right, in my life. But what you gain as you evolve into a new different person, like I have like this sisterhood of people.
mhm,
I know I have a brother. I never had sisters. I always wanted sisters, of
mhm,
people that I can talk to
mhm.
about anything. And it's
Yeah,
like the most amazing thing. And it's just like even being a mindset coach, like that was not in my bingo card ever.
right,
You know what I mean? Like I grew up,
right.
I'm 50, I turned 56 last Saturday
Yeah.
on the 23rd, FYI, for next year, November 23rd. Thank you.
November 23rd, got it.
Anyway, and I'm from the school of, you go to,
Locked in.
you go to school, you get a job, and that's the thing. You know what I mean? So being
Mhm,
a coach wasn't in my bingo card, and that was the evolution. Like I was like, I'm going to do network marketing, and then it's like, no, I started doing the work, and I was like, no, wait a minute. Initially, I was like, no, my health and wellness clients need this, and then I was like, oh no, 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 this is way bigger than that,
mhm, mhm.
and I need this. And stepping into that role as the vessel,
Yeah,
which I know we'll talk about, we'll get into later, but like stepping into that role as the vessel is a whole other conversation.
yeah,
So as the person being the vessel to show up, it's one thing to show up confidently and boldly, right? And then it's like, oh
yeah.
wait, person like people are gonna listen to, and they're gonna do things because you say so. It's like the whole other thing.
It's another level of work and of self-trust and of choosing to be a leader. So permission here, whatever the listeners are seeking in their life, it's your journey, right? And whether you decide to be a coach or you just want to live a more expressed, a more free life, both of those things have a ripple effect regardless. And so that's why Karen and I and all the other guests and all the other people who are um, advocating for this inner child healing, this rewiring of our
Mhm.
lived experience, so that we can make that change. And again, let's be ageist for a second. Karen was in her 50s, right? So there's no like, oh, you missed the boat. You got to come back next lifetime.
Right.
It
And
just,
that's I did so, it's so true because lately I've come across a lot of conditioned response, I'll just say it like that, where,
yeah, beautiful.
a lot of times people like when I said, and I did a post about this too, I was 52 when I stopped working in corporate America. So it was 4 years ago when the pandemic hit. Um, and and when I said about going roller skating for my birthday, which I
Yeah,
did,
yeah,
um,
yeah,
someone's like, "What are you, 25?" I'm like, "Well, in my brain, yeah." I mean, like,
yeah.
I chronologically maybe 56, but like there's no my brain is like 14. And it was just like interesting, but it's interesting responses that now I understand having done the
Mhm,
work that like
mhm,
we're conditioned to believe and conditioned to say and
mhm.
conditioned in a way like, it's too late because we're in our 50s and you're 56 and roller skating and it's like a thing. Like age becomes like it's almost as like you're supposed to like shrivel up and like just not
Mhm,
do things at a certain
mhm.
age. And I'm here to tell you it's not true. It's
Yeah.
not true at all. And you can be, do, and have anything you want at whatever age that you want it. That's the beauty of also doing the work is not caring
Yeah.
about what age you are, whatever it is. It feels good. It's what you want to do. It's how you want to expand. That's what you do.
This really leans into me of living from spirit rather than from flesh. And that, because, okay, let's see if I can get this out. The body is um, very defined, right? Like it's made of material and it's of a certain size and it's a container as a result. And your spirit is swooshing around in there, kind of like a ping pong ball, trying to hit on things. Sometimes it's emotions, sometimes it's maybe a physical limitation, actually, like an injury or capacity, whatever. But the work creates space in the body for spirit to flow bigger and to kind of burst through your physical container. And this may sound very woo woo, but it's just a way of explaining this beautiful quote that was like Deepak Chopra or somebody. There's so many different quoted sources, but about being spiritual beings having a human experience. And a movie that's really hitting this Cage and Meg Ryan. It's a heartbreakingly beautiful um, illustration of like spiritual life and human life. So if you don't know it, City of Angels, you could check it out. But as a means of understanding how we want to navigate ourselves and that it's bigger and bigger like in an expansive way. So you give yourself some grace and just try to think in like an eternal mindset, right? Lived one day at a time. Sit in
I
that
love
for
that.
a sec. They're big concepts, and that's what Karen and I and like a lot of won't take this the wrong way, but real coaches versus corner coaches. I been online for a while now, and I'm really starting to see like a difference in the professionalism of this trade. of this industry because it is so easy, air quotes, to go out there and run with a certification and advertise and, it's, an easier path than becoming a counselor, but a professional coach holds reflection, and it's not about them. They're not doing it to run and grab you as a transformation story to keep selling, and that's where, like, what Karen's talking about, really doing the work brings that forward, and then grows your heart's desire to lead, and then grows your flesh resistance to try and monetize it through a business,
Yeah, which is
which
it's
we
ridiculous.
can transition is like that's another awesome and hyper obnoxious element of the journey.
So true. It's so true. But I also want to point out one thing before you say we're guides.
Yes.
That's what we are. We're guides.
Yes.
Mia
Yes,
and I are guides. We're
that's
not
right.
going to sit here and tell you what you should, and
That's
we
right.
don't should on ourselves. We don't even use the word should. Okay. But we're guides. We're helping you extract
Yes.
the data.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Yes.
We're helping you extract the data so that you can understand the data, so that we can rewire and reprogramming at the subconscious level, have you connect more to your body because a lot of us were in survival mode from the neck up. And
Yeah.
how do you connect to your body and how do you do that? And then you become a new version of yourself. And really, the version you're becoming is the person you were before all the limiting stories and all the limiting beliefs and the conditioning was there. So that's what the overview of what Mia and I are about and what we do. It's not this is what you should be doing, and I think this is what you should be doing, and this is the you should be taking, and that kind of a thing. It's you. We help guide you through a journey.
Mhm. Yes, it's a very holistic approach to self-leadership,
Yeah.
self-understanding versus, like a Ford manufacturing factory. Picture 1920s when the Ford Model T was first coming out, ka-chunk, 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 everything the same. Because what worked for me and what my wounds are versus Karen's versus Jane versus Susan are all gonna be different. So if you're looking for somebody to help guide you, Karen, you articulated that so beautifully. You want to look for somebody who's really going to show up for you, not for them. And how do you know that? I mean, buyer beware, right? Get to
Well, that's
know
why you have
their,
the conversation.
yeah,
That's why you have the conversation. That's why I mean I personally do this all the time. I offer discovery calls all the time. That's
yeah,
part of what I do because I may not listen. You may not drive with me. I may not drive with you. We may not be a right fit for each other.
that's right.
Right? But it behooves a conversation and whatever happens from that happens.
So that's really important because let's move into growing a business out of this now. Because when we're starting out, we're so desperate to get a client because the client means that we're a business owner and that this is going to happen and blah, 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 blah. Me, right? Versus having done that pre work, you know that you're cool, baby. You're cool no matter what. And some people are for you and some are not because do you like every single buddy that you meet?
Nope.
Nope. Nope. Even me, who I often say I'm like the golden retriever at the jog park. Let's be friends. Let's be friends. Let's be friends. Oh, why'd you bark at me? Can we be friends? I'll come back tomorrow.
You get it.
There are people I don't like. And I know it's hard to believe, but there are people who don't like me either.
It's true. It's true. But the huh, starting okay. I have so much to say, but I'm trying to okay. So it's like, okay, this is gonna be great, right? And then it's like what I personally had to come to grips with was I can be on social media, I can do a post, I can do that kind of thing and show up like that, right? The back end of the business. right? The analyzing the data and the, how do you monetize further? How do you, the back end? So this was so lovingly pointed out to me again by our mentor, Tracy Litt, was there's the entrepreneur part of it,
Mhm,
right? Which is the showing up on social and selling and right and doing that. And then there's the back end
mhm,
portion of the business, which is data analyzation,
mhm,
CRM,
mhm.
organization, putting things together, email list and landing pages and, all that other kind of stuff, right?
Yeah,
And I had no clue about this part.
yeah,
I mean, I had a clue, but like I wasn't there at all. Right. So
yeah.
I'm like, I'll show up on social media and people gonna buy and this is what's gonna happen and all that kind of a thing. Right. And it's not necessarily the case.
Yeah,
So it was like and it's also like what position do you want to take? Right. It's also like because the fact of the matter is I am selling something. And that
mhm,
was also a piece of the puzzle, like, coming to grips with also, if I'm gonna be fully transparent here. I'm like, "No, I am," because I don't like selling. And
mhm.
my ex-husband is the salesman, and that's there's some correlation there, I'm sure. Um,
Right.
Positive about that.
Wow.
Also, the selling, I didn't like selling because it was like, I'm selling me, why don't people like me for me?
Boom.
Right? That was a healing journey that I had to go on myself as well. It was like because there's so many
Yes.
layers underneath, right? There's a lot of
Yeah.
why don't people like me for me? But I'm worthy and deserving as I am. Okay, so it has nothing to do with me, right? It's I was making it about me and it had nothing to do with me. So that healing journey. And so the business part of it, it can be fun, it can be ridiculous, but it's also understanding the role and what type of role one needs to take. And it could be different for everybody. Now, my
Mhm,
specific journey was understanding who do I want to speak to, how do I want to position myself, showing up like that, and taking money out of the equation, right? And
yeah.
I just had an epiphany about that last night because even though
Mm,
I do the inner work, there's a lot of we're like an onion and we peel it. And it was like, I was thinking to myself, you know, monetarily speaking, where I want to be, and I'm doing a workshop in a few weeks, and I was just
mhm,
in my
mhm,
head. I spent yesterday Thanksgiving like just relaxing, and I was like, all of a sudden, I had an epiphany of what if I just take money out of the equation?
mm.
It's a huge epiphany.
Gotcha.
What if I just put
Mhm,
out what put out, and money is the byproduct? And it's like a
mhm.
huge epiphany that I just had. That it was just like it doesn't matter if people are I wanna say it like this, like, it doesn't matter if people are buying or not, you're making an impact and
Mhm.
you're putting out your best, and that's
Fair.
enough, and if you build it, they will come, right? From Field of Dreams,
Boom.
they will come. And I had, um, I
Yep.
actually post about this today. I purposely did this post today because I put a post up about letting go the other day, and I
Mhm,
got a message from someone that they decided to let go of something. Based off of my post, they
mm,
decided to let go of something. They took
mm,
action for themselves,
mhm.
right? And I was like, "Oh my God, that's awesome." Like immediately my brain, "Oh my God, that's awesome." And then like 3 seconds later, it was like, "Oh my God, but they didn't buy a course." And like it became,
Yeah,
the inner
yeah.
critic started going because that's what happens. And this is real life, right? But the beauty about doing the work and being a coach, and this is what, as a coach, what I guide you to do as well, is that I understood what was going on and was
Yes.
able to, this applies to the business too, because it's part of the business is
Yes.
doing the work, right? And so I was able to, hey, what's up? Having
Mhm.
literally a conversation with my inner voice, and then do what I would call side by side is writing down what your
Yeah.
mind says, and then but what she says, which is your highest self, what she says, and connecting with that. And then I took action, and I did a whole post about this today because that shows up as well. So it's also about doing all of that. It's still doing the work. The work never, like you were saying, the work never ends. But it's like there's a whole, and then it was like, okay, but the back end stuff, I don't love it.
Mhm,
I don't love it at all because
mhm.
I just don't. It's not who I am in the sense of I'm not a big fan of these things. However, I've decided that it's behooves me to learn it and
Yes.
understand it so that
Yes.
eventually when I'm able to hand it off to a VA or someone else, I'm not just putting um I'm not just putting it in the hands of them and not having any idea of what's going on.
Exactly.
journey that I also took, because I was also a person that didn't really care about details like that.
Mhm.
And so I've become a person who, even though I'm not enjoying, it's not something that I would like to do on a continuous basis, at least wants to learn it so that I can understand it, because it's part of the
Yes.
business and part of what I'm doing.
Yeah. There's that is such fucking gold, and there's a lot to unpack in all of that, but I'll try to be succinct. We wanna do just the fun part of the business, which is the serving and the talking about it because we think it's the greatest freaking thing ever in the world, and it is, but it is to you, it has to be to somebody else, and unless you're making it about that somebody else, you're gonna struggle a little bit because you're looking to validate you and your business idea by somebody else liking it and buying it. That is all conditional things. If you fricking believe that what you have is the best thing since sliced bread, then you take that out there and you tell every single person, and they will start to say yes. McDonald's doesn't care if you come in and look at the menu and leave without buying. Starbucks doesn't care if you come in just to use the bathroom and leave without buying. This is the kind of thing that you want to be. And we start out, we're so keen, wet behind the ears, so excited, and I love the dimension that you gave to the front end of what you're selling to the back end of what you're building. The other piece of this, like if you only do the good stuff, I have an analogy about babies. So if you're a mom, it's like, oh, I love my baby when they're cute and sleeping and gurgling, and then they have a big stinky shit and it gets everywhere. And you're like, oh, no, no, I'm not doing that part of it. I only want like, or life, like an injury or a bad haircut or a bruise. Like you have to take it all and you have to take responsibility for it all. And the real hard truth is that you are going to be a solopreneur until you have a stable enough monthly recurring revenue to pay predictably. That is part of your fitness growth and becoming a business owner, not just an online coach like one in 500 million, right? That's the difference. And that's real leadership and that's real client service. Because if you're not building a back end, and somebody validation, and they do need that confirmation that they've made a good choice. And if you're like at your kid's soccer game and the payment comes through and you don't have an automation to send them an email and say, welcome, I'm so excited with a cute little video of you and quick access to something, they're going to start panicking because imagine if you went to the grocery store and filled your cart and scanned it all through and paid for it, but then didn't get to take the cart full of shit home with you.
That's a good point.
You don't wanna do it, but tough beans, kiddo, you got to, and I'll brag about myself a little bit. This is one of my areas of geniuses, right? And there's so many ways to create simple systems to support your business, and it's better for you and it's better for the client. And then you get to stay in that empowered spaciousness of knowing you really got something real and that's bigger than you. So, like, the creator of Starbucks is never in the frickin' store,
Yeah.
right? The creator of McDonald's or Walmart, they're never in the frickin' store. 'Cause they've created a system to provide the service.
And think about what the system does, to your point, Mia. Okay, what the system does, because even with our coaching, we give like systems, right? So the when you have the systems and when you do the systems, right, the time that you have left over is immense,
Boom.
rate-wise, time-wise,
Yes.
all wise,
Yeah,
because it's like, oh well, that's done, and I could move on to or just
yeah,
relax or whatever it is. You know what I mean? It there's time
yeah.
savings involved in having systems in place
Yes,
and
totally.
efficiency of
Yeah.
having systems in place.
And then scalability, because as you mentioned, when you do hire your VA, which a lot of people wanna run to as the first team member, imagine them joining and everything's a mess and they can't find anything. It's like, everything's thrown up all over the place and they have no idea. They're not gonna succeed, and then you're gonna be frustrated, and it's gonna continue to tangle things
Right.
up. So there is heavy
And
lifting to be done, like with weight loss, right? You gotta sweat and grunt.
Well, and it does, and it takes time, and I think that's another piece of the puzzle. And I just had a thought, like when I used to work in corporate America, there were
Mhm.
like, and even when you get in a car or a washer dryer, whatever, there's manuals
Yes.
that come with it,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And there's like, so
Yes.
like whether you read them or not,
Mhm.
I mean, that's not the
Yeah.
point, but like it's like to your point about systems, a manual is a system.
Mhm.
Right?
Yeah.
It's showing you what to do, and when you worked in corporate and you had to read like trainings and whatever else, it's like that's the whole point. So it's all it's to all of that.
It makes you a better leader, a better coach, and it
And like,
professionalizes the work that you're doing. Theme that's coming up for me these days, the softness and the professionalizing of what we're doing so that it builds confidence to take ourselves seriously, but it also builds confidence in our audience to feel safe and trust. And it's ironic that we talk about not seeking external circumstances for internal validation, but we were that version, and there's still elements of us that are that version. So we
mhm,
want to massage that away for us and for them to have smooth experiences, to have nervous system regulated support in actually running a business, a
mhm.
meaningful business, and being able to feel safe to say no to clients as well in that.
Yes, and it's that's the stepping into the role of leadership as well,
Yeah.
which is what I kind of mentioned, alluded to earlier too,
Yeah.
is that's where the confidence comes in. That's where the self-love, the self-validation, that's where the self-belief, the deservancy,
Mhm.
believing in and knowing that you are whole worthy as you, and loving and trusting and believing in yourself, right? And knowing and stepping into that vessel as a leader. So there's the
Yeah.
entrepreneur, right? There's the back end, and there's also your leader,
Yeah.
whether you like it, right? And it's stepping into that role wholeheartedly, and understanding that you're the vessel, and that there are people who are requiring your services, and that's beautiful, and
Mhm.
that's wonderful, and that's fabulous, and it's okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So
See,
what are some ways then that you've dug into the back end to help yourself?
system,
Yeah, but
system.
like what? Like, are you website
So
hosts? Like, what are some of the
so I'm actively actually switching uh place CRM things
Okay.
that I was doing. I'm in the process of doing that now, but
Okay.
it is having that email sent. So the systems are having that email sent out when
Yeah.
people, of course, that's the first thing. Building an email list,
Mhm.
and newsletters.
Mhm.
I'm actively, those are my, those are things I'm working on towards the end of this year,
Right on.
as well. And doing stuff like that. Like, so right now, the landing page is
Yeah.
another thing I'm working on.
Yeah.
So those are things that I have. So like they're there, for lack of a better way to put it. So those are, yeah,
Yeah.
those are things that I'm working
Yeah.
on at the moment.
Yeah. Perfect. They're just a few thing easier, right? And they do take a bit of work, but like really, somebody could smash that out in a
Yeah.
few days' time, right? If you had 8 hours a day or something. Not that you have to only do that for 8 hours. Don't freak out, guys. But, you just do the heavy lifting and then you let it run, and it's a beautiful thing,
And one of the things I'm also doing is accepting help. So like from
right?
people that are saying
Right.
like your banners is not great, and I want you to
So if you don't know, guys, Karen made a Facebook banner and it's purple with writing. And
deal
I
with
know
it.
I know her and I love her. And I was like, "Mm." And so I made one in Canva for her, put her on a disco stage with a disco ball, and it's super fun. right? And that's the other beauty of the sisterhood or of the collective, where we get to do things for each other out of love, just out
Yeah.
of love. Like, I have such a flippin' huge heart of service, and I just sprinkle it wherever I can, and I now get to control, get to decide how I wanna share that and where I wanna share that, right? Not to get anything out of it, just to do it because it feels fucking good to do it.
Right? It
Feels
just feels
so
good.
good. I probably stared at that Facebook banner more than Karen has because I love it so much.
And the thing is that to that point and the growth portion is I that, you could be someone who doesn't necessarily accept help because you do it on your own, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And so accepting
That's
help and
me.
saying
Yeah,
yes, that was me too. Saying yes and not making it we talked earlier about not making it about yourself. Like
yeah,
I knew like I didn't make the fact that you know, my banner wasn't great, your opinion was about me,
that's right.
right? I took it as, you know what, I saw the point, like, it isn't that great, but, and I accepted like I said, I accepted the help
Mhm.
that someone was willing to give me because I knew that that would benefit, and that's the thing
Boom.
too,
Yeah,
back to tying it back to the business, like, that's
yeah,
part of your business,
yeah.
is having a partner and having, it's like your social media is, like, part of the business, and it was like,
Mhm,
no, people wanna see, like,
mhm.
who you are. How do they get in touch with you as part of the banner? And that's things that like these are things that you don't even think about, but things that have to be learned as you go along.
The receivership in that is a whole other conversation. We
That's
could
a
go
whole lot.
on forever, but, it's a huge part, like, it was in a way, it was me seeking to receive by asking to give something, 'kay? Support and to care for and to lift up. And Karen saying yes was like a way for me to receive and deliver on my gifts and talents. And Karen saying yes was a way for her to receive as well. And we think we want these things, but when the work comes, we resist. So this is where we want to soften, and it's so much better when we do it together without
Mhm.
attachment to an outcome of any kind. Holy tomatoes. I can't believe the ends of the universe that we've covered in this incredible conversation. So, Karen, now it's time to step onto the powerful stage and share with the audience what you have to offer. And let's promote that through the listeners and, continue to help each other live freer, live happy, live peacefully every simple, mundane, beautifully repetitive, awesomely surprising day.
Oh. Um, I can't even believe like we just did all that. Anyway, so well, you heard me talking about the journey and all of the evolution. So with that, my course is called Unscrew Yourself. Because like I said, it can be ridiculous, but also, it is.
Beautiful.
So my that is the name of my called Unscrew Yourself. So that's the inner journey that we take, the evolution that we take together, and how I guide you. And I am also so that's always available. I do one-on-one, and I also do group coaching if you like. And on December 10th, if you were like, I don't know, and I don't want to necessarily have a conversation with you, Karen. I don't know, I'm not sure. I am doing a free workshop on December 10th at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, creating a magnetic vision/vision board workshop where we take a little bit of the evolution. Well, like I said, we do a vision. We do a really beautiful vision connecting to our 85-year-old self, and is how to embody that person. And instead, we do actually
Mhm.
do a vision and how to embody that person, and then we're making a vision board from all
Yeah,
of that. That's what
yeah,
we're doing.
beautiful.
So you have two ways to to work with me.
Yeah, awesome, awesome. Well, take advantage because I mean, obviously, Karen's a fun little fireball who lives this work, and so I'm so excited to share her with you, and I just had the best time ever. I think we fucking killed it, just saying.
I think we
That
fucking
was awesome. I love you. Thank you for coming on the show. Thank you for sharing yourself, and, we're just gonna keep crushing it out there together.
And I wanna say thank you, and I love you too, and I also just wanna say what you're doing with this podcast and what you put out in the world, is magnificent and wonderful and fabulous, and you are magnificent and wonderful and fabulous, and you are a gift to this world, and I thank you for allowing me space to be part of it.
Mm, honor. Thank you. I receive it.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right, bye, listeners. We'll catch you soon.
Bye.
We love you. The stop recording is up.
Oh, it's still recording on my end.